Yes. Oh, a stranger? In my tent? On the top of this mountain? At this time of night? Why, of course, why would I expect any different? When an old man goes up a mountain, clearly he's a wise man, and everybody must ask him some questions. Crazy, isn't it? But I don't suppose you're here for my ramblings. I suppose you're here to ask me a question. Oh. You want to learn how to dungeon master a game of Dungeons and Dragons? Well, I'm going to need quite a bit of wine. Actually, I have a simpler solution. Let me go through it with you. Step 1, don't. Okay, fine, but I must let you know what you're getting into. Did you know that when you start dungeon mastering, every single time you will never complete a plan? And the times that you do, the gods must be smiling, because I've been at it for quite some time. And age gives you experience. And I absolutely hate it. I mean, why bother planning when all of your players just want to sell a jade frog at the nearest town and hope that it's not important at all? And you still want to learn? My, you are quite a determined one. Well, let's get on with it then. Come with me, and I will show you the basics. Yes! Oh my god! Do you know how hard it is to test out spells without any guinea pigs? And, with you happening to fall asleep while I managed to... Well, I managed to enter your dreams. Now, you asked me if I could show you what it's like to be a dungeon master. How to be a dungeon master? Well, what better way than to use a spell I've clearly known for years on you and show you that way. So, with your mind and my magic, let's begin this journey. Where to begin? Where to begin? Well, if you haven't had the pleasure of playing Dungeons & Dragons, you might be a bit new to this whole thing. A lot of people recommend that you play the game first before running a game. But I say nonsense. My first game when playing with other people was a bunch of us putting down pieces of paper, writing fake stats, and improvising the whole thing. Albeit incredibly dumb, someone got murdered over a mispronunciation of the word bananas, but you could consider that something that would happen in another game. Such as a real professional game. Either way, if you're brand new, I'd recommend reading the books first, seeing a general basis of the rules. And I don't expect anybody to learn them all in one sitting. While reading the Player's Handbook for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition and the Dungeon Master's Guide of 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, you will see a lot of rules and you won't remember all of them for your first session. And I want to stress that you can make up a rule for that session only, and then come back to it when you've actually read up on the rules. I believe that it is better to make up one very quick in the spur of the moment that makes sense to you, and then look up the rule in your own spare time. If there's anything that's important to this game, it is flow. And with all of these items, with all of these basics set up, let's get down to the basics. Now then, I hope you are familiar with the rules and understand what you're getting yourself into. To begin with, you want to have a world and a general storyline that your characters can fit into. This is not something that is considerably easy. So, if you're brand new, I'd recommend starting with a world that you know of. Something that you can easily look into. And if you're a little bit more adventurous when it comes to your creative exploits, you could create an addition onto a world. Create your own variables in it, your own people, your own characters. For example, a good idea of this would be the Lord of the Rings setting. There's a lot of documentation on that, so when your players ask for something, you could always search it up if you don't know the answer to it. If you're making a brand new world, this might actually be considerably easier, because from then, when a question is asked, you can improvise the whole thing. However, you'll get used to doing that over time, and practice makes perfect. So, let's say we are creating a generic fantasy world. The general idea is to ask yourself the questions of people living in this world. What are the general towns? What is the most prosperous? What is the least prosperous? How do they differ? What is the technology like? Do guns exist in your setting? Is this so far advanced that there's an ancient, technologically advanced race that is able to have computers made of magic? And so forth and so forth. You ask these questions and you jot them down. And the more you write about it, the more you think about it, the more it's ingrained into your brain. And the more you can use it when your players ask for you, or when you need to make a plot point on the fly. Next, you need a storyline. Something that your players will follow. A goal, if you would. This goal preferably should be one that all of the players would follow by default. Whether it be because you've asked them to follow it from when they make their characters. For example, let's say you wanted to host a game about traveling on the ocean, and you ask your players, please make a character that is interested in this weird anchor. Or make your players interested in socializing in this faraway land for some reason. Your players tend to be very creative, so they'll probably come up with something. But if you need a little help, try and think of what motivates you in real life, and think of a reason why a character might be motivated to follow your path. So, let's give an example then, shall we? Let's say there's a far-off wizard who has knowledge and power beyond belief, and your group of travelers want to go speak to him because he has this ancient knowledge that they want. And this is a very easy, very quick main goal. The challenge comes in the journey, and the goal might not even end when they reach the wizard. A very good principle of improvisation, a topic we'll keep coming back to, is the idea of and then. So, yes and, I guess you would put it in most places. If you've done improv, you hear yes and a lot. It is the idea that once something has happened, you accept that it's occurred, and then you add to it. So, once they have reached this wizard, you can add on to it as an improv. You can say, okay, this wizard is powerful, he is giving you this information, but at what cost? Perhaps this wizard is just pulling a ploy, just telling you this knowledge in order to keep you distracted, in order to set up a master plan, for example. Maybe he is sick of people coming up to his mountain. Maybe he's angry that these people have come to his mountain to ask him inane questions that they could have easily gone and found elsewhere. But no, they had to come up to his mountain and disturb him in his midnight meditation, and they didn't even bring him alcohol. What's up with that? Now come on, if you're going to an old man on a mountain, bring something. It doesn't even have to be alcohol. I mean, have you seen space weed? That's something you should bring an old man, you know? Either way, I'm getting ahead of myself. Apologies. But this does make for a very compelling narrative beyond that. The people come up here, they've gotten what they want, but something has happened that has changed what is supposed to be their final goal. It helps continue campaigns beyond this end. But remember never to run beyond what your game is capable of. And by that, I mean, when your game is coming to an end and your players all feel it, provide an ending that is satisfying. Don't continue the yes and. There are very few games I know of, at least from friends and experiences, that have fully ended, and it is quite a treat when they do. Anyway, now that you have a story and a goal in mind, you can ask your players, what else do you want in this campaign? The thing is, when it comes to running a game of Dungeons & Dragons, you want to make your players happy, but you also want to enjoy it yourself as a DM. It is this balance of happiness around the table that makes this enjoyable for all. So, ask if the players would like this setting to be a bit more fantastical or a bit more gritty. Maybe they want survivalist mechanics that you can look up and add to your game. Maybe they want a lot of magic because they like this fantasy concept that has been brought to them. Maybe they just want to sit down and talk to people and they don't want to go on an epic adventure. Maybe they want to stay home like they should be doing, especially during this uncertain time. And maybe they just want to drink wine with friends instead of being bothered by pesky adventurers. I mean, excuse me, I didn't mean that. But yes. Now that you have a story and a world and motivation for your players, you want to go through character creation with them, as described in the player's handbook, and you're all set. Now it is time for you to host a session. Now it is time to play the game. Okay, so now you've got everyone together, you've got their motivators, the reason they're adventuring this world and following your storyline, and you have the world itself that they can interact with. How do you play the game? Well, first, I need to give you an idea of how describing and setting a scene works. The problem with Dungeons & Dragons and most tabletops is that it is an entirely auditory experience for the most part. You may add pictures, you may print out something and give it to the players, but you won't be able to improvise that for the most part. So, most of this is going to be auditory. This means in order to get an idea across, you must say it. You must improvise a description. So, let's say we're meeting all of the characters in a tavern, for example. Original, I know. And all of the characters are there, and you have to describe them. I tend to go the rule of 3 when it comes to this. 3 very appealing, very vivid descriptors. So, this comes with practice, so don't worry if you don't get it first time. Let's give an example. You all enter a tavern. This place is thick with the smell of ale, and the floors stick with an uneasy squelch. The place is dirty, and the members are hardened. This is a back alley inn. As you can see, I did groups of 2 3 times. So, I got across an idea of the floor and the smell, I got across the idea of who they are, and I give a final conclusion on what this kind of a place is. This doesn't have to be completely stuck to, but it's at most what your players are going to remember about this place. If you want to have a specific aspect of your scene very vivid to the players, you might have to add in a few more sentences to really focus in on that. An example would be if you're describing a character with a very shiny sword, you might want to mention it more than once. Or you might even mention it while the character is talking, have it come up in other situations beyond the first initial description. The more attention you give something, the more important players are going to see it. So, let's say the players come into a small tent at the top of a mountain, and there is a wizard sitting there, meditating. And as they go in, you have to describe the scene. Let's try it. All of you enter a small tent, the waving of the cloth against the sound. There is a man sitting there, his fingers curled to make circles, his hands outstretched, as though he were meditating. The silence inside this tent is almost deafening, as if the outside world didn't exist. And you stand there before him, seconds away from disturbing him. In that example, I've mentioned the clean and silent atmosphere of inside the tent compared to outside of the tent. From that, the players know they are disturbing the silence, and so have the choice of whether or not to disturb him. And when these players come in and hear this description, they should know that they are about to disturb someone. But sometimes it doesn't always go perfect. Sometimes situations arise where they're not favourable for you or the players. Sometimes it all goes wrong. There will always be a time where it goes wrong. A once great man said, "You can commit no wrong move and still lose." That is not a weakness. That is life. And, as a dungeon master, you will have to learn that lesson. Because there will always be a situation in which it might be hard to improvise, you might not know what you're doing, and the players might freak out. And I have one story for you that gives you a very vivid picture of what this looks like. In one of my games, I added a 1 meter by 1 meter hole that was endless, just completely bottomless. And this is my explanation of what happened. A hole? Just... Is that it? Yes, it is just a hole. But there has to be more to it. You can't just have a hole in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it doesn't make sense. Hey, what if someone jumped in the hole? I'm not jumping in the hole. No one is jumping in the hole. But wouldn't it be funny if someone jumped in the hole? I mean, like, I'm gonna jump in the hole. No one's going to be jumping in any holes. Please. Too late. I'm going. So, you're telling me that you're going to jump in the hole with no second thought, this bottomless pit that I've just described to you, and you're going to jump into it? Yeah. I don't see the problem. The problem is that you're going to die. Psh, no, I'm not. Come on. The DM isn't going to put a hole here just to have us die in it. I mean, what's the point of it? It's obviously some sort of secret loot. I mean, loot might actually be quite nice. I think I'm going to jump in the hole too. Yes, treasure does sound swell. Let me jump in the hole too. You guys do realize that this is a bottomless pit. There's nothing special about it. You can't see any evidence. There's nothing around you that suggests that this might be a treasure hole. Yeah, so I'm gonna jump in the hole. Me too. Me free. Like I said, anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Speaking of things going wrong, if you've decided to continue GMing, I'm hoping your determination to come find me proves useful, because I have something for you. It's time for you to wake up. Wake up and smell the ashes. I hope you're enjoying the view from down there, because I'm about to close this door once and for all. I hope you enjoyed bothering an old man. And if you survive this, I hope this teaches you a lesson. Always expect the unexpected. Hey, psst. He got you too, did he? Well, lucky for you, I know my way out of here. But you took quite the fall. Rest up, and we'll get going together.